Discover the amazing moment a cleaner's song changed a man's life forever after 25 years. David sat at his desk, the dull hum of fluorescent lights above him blending with the relentless tapping of keyboards. After 25 years grinding through the 9-to-5 grind in a cubicle, his dreams of being a musician had faded into distant memories, buried beneath the weight of deadlines and family expectations. Yet, each evening as the office emptied, the soothing voice of Mary, the cleaning lady, drifted through the hallways like a melody from a forgotten era. Her lullabies resonated with warmth, peeling back layers of the cold corporate world he was trapped in. There was magic in her song, a warmth he'd long thought lost. One particular night, as shadows cast long around him, he heard her, a haunting lullaby, tender and full of life, like a desperate whisper against his muted reality. It sparked something deep within him, rekindling the flame that had long since flickered out. He closed his eyes for a moment, and the music poured back to him, lyrics slumbering in the corners of his mind. For the first time in decades, he felt something close to hope. But soon that hope crumbled under the weight of responsibility. His children relied on him, needing that steady paycheck to cover bills. Chasing a dream felt reckless, selfish even. Doubt gnawed at him. What would his wife think? She had grown accustomed to their humdrum life, and the very mention of ambition could shatter their precarious balance. His colleagues already saw him as just a faceless worker. What a comedy it would be if he dared to think he could step onto a stage with aspirations of leaving cubicle life behind. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days blurred into nights filled with scribbled notes and melodies, home felt different, charged with unspoken tension. His wife's worried glances cut through his excitement like razor blades. "What are you doing, David?" Her voice echoed in his thoughts, a persistent reminder of the precariousness of their situation. He floundered between guilt and desire, a visceral push and pull threatening to tear him apart. He learned of a talent show, a local chance to share his songs. It cast a curious light on the gloom that engulfed him. Could he take that leap? The thought filled him with both exhilaration and dread. Mary noticed his quiet determination, her encouragement wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. But then came the inevitable self-doubt, the nagging thoughts that screamed, "What if you fail?" Each night before he slept, anxiety twisted like a coiled spring in his chest, robbing him of rest while igniting dreams of a different life. Standing backstage on the night of the talent show, he could feel the weight of every critical gaze, the room swelling with expectation. Would they see him for what he once was? Or mock the absurdity of his transformation? Heart racing, he took a deep breath, trying to quell the chaos inside, but as the moment drew nearer, all that remained was an echoing starkness. As the music surged in his veins urging him forward, a memory flickered: Mary's laughter, her unwavering spirit pushing him onward. The stage beckoned, the spotlight ready to pierce the shadows that enveloped him. As he stepped out and interlaced his fingers around the guitar, dread intertwined with hope, leaving him teetering on the edge as he began to play. His fingers trembled as they danced over the strings, each note resonating with a newfound eagerness, a longing for both expression and connection. The guitar's warm vibrations coursed through him, revitalizing hidden embers of inspiration. The audience blurred into mere shapes washed in a sea of bright light, their expectations a murky backdrop against which his long-held fears and aspirations clashed. He kicked off with the first chord, a shaky but earnest beginning, as his voice joined the melody, the words spilling from a place only he had access to for far too long. Yet, with every measure, he felt an unshackling occur, as if the weight of those 25 years lifted just a fraction, revealing the man he had hidden from himself. But the instant thrill was tempered by the gnawing remnants of doubt. What if he faltered? What if his children's future dimmed because of a fleeting moment of courage? David glanced at the shadowed corners of the auditorium, expecting a judgmental face or two, a reminder of the life he had chosen over dreams. But something remarkable transpired in that moment. He began to see fragments of recognition among the listeners, a subtle nod here and there. Just as Mary's voice had sparked something dormant within him, perhaps his own melody could provoke awareness in others. The song swelled, building in intensity, as did his confidence. Each verse tugged at unspoken sentiments that tumbled forth, revealing fragments of his life's sleepless nights spent worrying over bills, smiling faces of his children, the understanding he shared with his wife, and the stifled fantasies of being more than just a corporate cog. Midway through, a ripple of applause traversed the crowd, nudging him toward greater vulnerability. Fueled by exhilaration, he allowed his voice to soar higher, weaving personal stories into lyrics, bringing the audience closer to the truth he had suppressed. This was not just about music, it was a statement, a declaration that to live fully, he must embrace his authenticity. But at the apex of his performance, when euphoria trickled throughout his bones, he spotted her, his wife, standing just beyond the clusters of faces. Her expression was inscrutable, brimming with emotions he could not quite decipher. This was the crux of his journey: leave behind the mundane, or seek redemption without losing the stability they had built together. Would she support him, or would he draw her ire by stepping outside their established narrative? As he finished the final chord, silence hung thick in the air. The applause erupted suddenly, a wave of sound that filled the cavernous space and washed over him. A mixture of relief and disbelief coursed through his veins. Perhaps that leap had not been as foolish as he once believed. But in the midst of this victorious catharsis, his heart thudded with an unresolved tension. The applause had not erased his own doubts, it had only heightened the stakes. Moments later, as he stepped off the stage, caught in the whirlwind of exhilaration and vulnerability, he felt the quiet gravity of his reality settling back in a contrast stark enough to shatter the fleeting high. His children, whose lives now hung in the balance of his choices, awaited at home. The weight of their future pressed against his chest, mingling with the thrill of the night. He still needed to confront the pivotal decision that haunted him, the battle between passion and responsibility. And behind that excitement, an unsettling thought inked itself into his mind: would the respect he earned tonight translate into a belief in himself or further alienate the very foundation he cherished? With every step back toward the exit, he could feel uncertainty thrumming beneath the surface, an urgency demanding resolution. The moment of truth had barely begun. Outside the auditorium, David's senses buzzed with a frenetic energy that contrasted sharply with the calm of the night air. The applause still echoed in his ears, a reminder of both triumph and turmoil. As he navigated the throngs of departing spectators, his heart raced not with anticipation but dread. He forced himself to breathe steadily, he needed clarity. How could one performance, one brief encounter with self-expression, spiral into such profound uncertainty? The drive home felt interminable. He felt the weight of the silence between himself and the reality waiting in their cozy suburban home. His mind churned with thoughts of the night, the faces of the audience, the thrill of performing, the fear of judgment. Most importantly, his wife's unreadable expression sat heavy in the back of his mind. Arriving home, he stepped inside, the familiar scent of home enveloping him, a mixture of children's laughter frozen in time and the soft aroma of Mary's favorite vanilla candles. He knew he should feel comforted, but instead, the familiar surroundings felt foreign, pressing down on him. The children were already asleep, their dreams undisturbed by the turmoil swirling in his own mind. "David?" Mary's voice broke through the quiet, soft yet strong, like the steady rhythm of a comforting song. She stood in the hallway, her arms crossed protectively, an unintentional barrier. "You're back early." He forced a smile. "Yeah, I did it. I played." The words tumbled out, but with them came a wave of vulnerability, accompanied by the flickering candlelight casting playful shadows around the room. Her brows furrowed slightly. "And? How did it go?" "Good," he said, unsure of the honesty contained within that single word. "I felt something." He searched her eyes for understanding but found only a masked worry. "Mary, I'm not sure how to explain. Did everyone like it? She moved closer, but her demeanor remained distant, as if she would retreat at any moment. It's not just about them, he found himself saying, his voice rising with an urgent passion. It was about me. I let go of everything. I sang from my heart for the first time in years. It felt he struggled for the words, aware of the gravity of the next implications. It felt right. She regarded him carefully, her expression shifting. But what does that mean for us, David? For the kids? The undercurrents of a brewing storm surfaced in her tone. You've always chosen stability and safety over whatever this is. The challenge in her voice struck a nerve, awakening fears he had buried away. What if stability isn't enough anymore, Mary? I can't keep pretending to be the man who doesn't dream. Each word felt like a release, a confrontation of everything that had built the walls around them. But the look in her eyes went cold as if she were staring into an abyss. You can't just change everything overnight, she replied, her voice steady. What about the sacrifices we've made? Are we just supposed to throw those away? For the first time, David felt the enormity of his choices crashing down, the thrill of the stage and the burden of home collided within him. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm asking to build something new, he countered, determination flaring at the edges of his resolve. But I need you to understand. As silence stretched painfully between them, he realized his willingness to embrace change might not equate to her readiness to join him. With lingering uncertainty settling in the air like fog, he looked at her, searching for a sign of support among the shadows. Maybe I need to show you. His mind raced with possibilities and the hidden talents just waiting to be unleashed. The idea of sharing his journey beyond music became a beacon piercing through the doubt that clouded his vision. What do you mean? Mary finally asked, her curiosity piqued, though hesitation lingered. I'll prove it, he said, heart hammering. I'll organize a showcase where I can share more than just songs. I'll involve the kids. We can all be part of something bigger. The flicker of recognition flared in her eyes, something akin to hope, but her features remained cautious. This was a gamble, a leap into the unknown that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As he spoke, a thought coalesced in his mind: could this concert be the catalyst not just for his dreams, but for her understanding too? Yet, could their marriage, their life, withstand the strain of his ambitions? With the dawn of possibility unveiling before him, David felt a glimmer of faith alongside his lingering apprehension. Would the path he chose lead to fulfillment, or would it unravel the very fabric of their lives? Standing on the brink of personal transformation, he locked eyes with his wife, sensing that the impending revelations would either bind them closer together or rip them apart, leaving in its wake a trail of uncertainty that demanded to be explored. In the days that followed, David found himself engulfed in a whirlwind of preparation and introspection. The showcase had become his focus, the vessel through which he could channel all the conflicting emotions that had festered within him. Each morning brought a mixture of excitement and dread. Would this be the moment he broke free, or would it lead to new fractures in his life? His first task was to gather the kids. He approached them at breakfast, watching the way their laughter tangled with the sunlight streaming into the kitchen. Their faces lit up when he mentioned the idea of performing together, and for a fleeting moment, the apprehension that had haunted him felt far away. Can we sing our favorite songs? Ella's eyes sparkled with eagerness, while Ben patted his little sister's back in silent agreement. Yes, and more. David exclaimed, his pulse quickening. We're going to create something special, a family showcase. Not just songs, but stories and performances that celebrate who we are. What do you think? A thrill surged through him as they bounced ideas off one another, pulling at memories that had lain dormant, waiting for this very moment. The notion of involving the kids shaped his vision further. This was about more than his personal expression. It became a platform for them to explore their creativity too. However, even as excitement coursed through him, the echo of Mary's unresolved doubts loomed large. He noted her cautious approval, an occasional nod, a tentative smile, but knew deep down that her reservations still lingered. Whether she was merely humoring him or truly beginning to understand this new path remained shrouded in ambiguity. Determined to prove the initiative's worth, David dove into planning and practicing. He sketched out performances, injecting emotional fragments of their lives into the repertoire. He watched the kids grow bolder. Ella discovered a flair for storytelling, while Ben animatedly crafted a skit featuring their cat, Clancy. Each discovery felt like a spark illuminating potential in a way he hadn't anticipated. One afternoon, while rehearsing with the kids in the living room, David had an epiphany. It wasn't simply about showcasing their talents, it was about vulnerability. He recalled his own fears, how every note had once felt like a judgment, and began to share those feelings with his children. Sometimes, it's scary to let people see us for who we really are, he said, glancing at their eager faces, reflecting back both innocence and understanding. But it's also beautiful. When you're brave enough to share that, you lift others up too. Their giggles subsided as they absorbed his words. He witnessed their courage grow, and in turn, he envisioned a new dynamic with Mary, an opportunity to bridge the gaps that had opened between them, but self-doubt still whispered ominously in the back of his mind. Could he truly transform this idea into something meaningful, something that would re-establish the bonds within his family? What if their lives changed in ways he couldn't predict? As the showcase date approached, David decided to take a more direct step in his relationship with Mary. He invited her to the rehearsal, hoping that perhaps witnessing the children's embrace of their creativity would instill a sense of understanding of his own aspirations. Their kids brimmed with delight, but would Mary find the same excitement? When she walked into the living room, her expression remained neutral, her arms again crossed a familiar barrier. "Just watch, please," David urged as he began to play a simple tune. As the kids joined him, their harmonies weaving in and out like threads, he let the music carry him. This was more than just a performance, it was a plea for her to see the dream he was grasping, clinging to it desperately in the face of potential rejection. Each note resonated through the room, echoing against the walls that had felt so confining, yet filled with hope for a new beginning. But as the song concluded, he glanced toward Mary, her face indecipherable. The tension in her posture remained, leaving David wondering, could this truly transform her perception? In the stillness that followed, an idea swirled in his mind. If he could unearth more of himself through these moments, might she also find a way to let go of her fears, just as he had? Confronted by this urge to delve deeper into their shared histories, he faced a new choice. "Can we talk?" he finally mustered, feeling the weight of the moment. Would she listen, or retreat further into her concerns? With the potential for heartbreak looming, David felt the stakes rise as love, ambition, and doubt entwined within him. The moment of truth was approaching, and he knew he had to either bridge the gap or plunge into the unknown, where the outcome was uncertain. Just like on stage, life awaited him raw and unedited, beckoning him to embrace whatever came next. As the silence wrapped around them, David's heart raced. Each second felt like an eternity, filled with the weight of expectation and the fear of rejection. He searched Mary's eyes for a sign, a flicker of understanding, but found only a stillness that was both familiar and unsettling. "I know this is new for us," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "But I need you to understand how much this means to me, to us." Mary shifted her posture, uncrossing her arms slightly, an infinitesimal sign, yet David clung to it like a lifeline. He took a breath, willing himself to lay bare the doubts that had plagued him, shadows of insecurity he had masked in enthusiasm. "I've been stuck for so long. I thought if I could lead the kids in something creative, it might show them how to express themselves, how to face their fears." As he spoke, he caught a glimpse of his own transformation. The man who was once a spectator in his life was now reaching for agency. Mary's expression softened as he continued. "I want our family to be a place where we can all be vulnerable. I want them to see that passion is worth pursuing, no matter how scary it feels, even for you and me." A flicker of emotion sparked in her eyes, but it was immediately overshadowed by something akin to despair. "David," she sighed, shaking her head as if trying to dispel his words, "it's not that simple. You don't understand the risks. What if it doesn't go as we hope? Those words jarred him. He knew the risk, the chance of failure loomed large. Yet wasn't he that part of the journey? Hadn't he stepped onto this path to explore an unknown terrain? But what if it does? What if we forge a new path together? This could help us rediscover each other too. Her gaze dropped to the floor, a subtle retreat into contemplation. David's resolve intensified, urging him to connect the dots, to reveal the depths of his understanding. I see how burdened you've been. It feels like we're drifting further apart every day. I don't want that for us or the kids. Let us take a step towards healing, together. He paused, realizing yet again how intertwined personal growth and vulnerability were. If they could both take a risk, they might find common ground. He would show her that this endeavor was not merely one of performance but a chance to reclaim their family's narrative. Finally, Mary looked back at him, her chin lifted. And what if you fail? Then we try again, he replied, his voice steady now, filled with conviction. That's how this works. We have to be willing to fall, but we don't have to do it alone. The tension between them shifted slightly, opening space for reflection. David sensed something was stirring within her, a potential transformation that made his heart quicken. This was the very essence of the showcase, a journey together. Despite the hurdles. As the next rehearsal drew near, David found himself oscillating between hope and trepidation. How much more could he share? What if Mary's fears pushed her further away instead of pulling her in? He guided the children through their next performance, tightening the edges of their creative piece. Each skit and song now felt laced with purpose. As Ella spun a story of courage and Ben acted out their cat's comedic antics, David was struck by a realization: their innocence served as a reminder that the world was still capable of wonder, even amidst uncertainty. Later that evening, as the light faded, he penned a letter to Mary. It was a personal manifesto, detailing how this project could be a bridge to rebuild their fractured selves and their love. Would she embrace it, or would the weight of her fears stifle their budding connection? With resolve firming within him, David was prepared to risk it all. Tomorrow, he would hand her the letter, igniting a new chapter for them both. Would she see the potential for healing that lay in vulnerability? Or would doubt continue to cast its shadow over their attempt to reclaim what had been lost? He realized that he stood on the precipice of a new reality, one that promised either revival or heartache. The night before the rehearsal filled him with anticipation. Tomorrow would be crucial, the turning point or yet another moment of hesitation. David faced the unknown once more, knowing that everything hinged on what lay ahead. Would he confront the layers of apprehension that still enveloped their lives, or would the darkness continue to loom? As the dawn approached, a resolve set like steel. It was time to confront not just the external doubts but the internal barriers blocking both his and Mary's awakenings. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow that danced across the wooden table where David sat, the letter still in his hands. He studied its creased edges and the ink that had dried in uneven strokes. It was more than mere words, it had become a vessel for his hopes, fears, and his vision for a united family. Yet, uncertainty clawed at him like an insistent child demanding attention. As he prepared breakfast, the sounds of sizzling eggs mingled with the soft hum of his thoughts. Would Mary recognize the depth of his intention? The fear he anticipated in her eyes now felt like a shared weight. He wanted to grow, to emerge not just as a father, but as a partner forged through mutual risk-taking and support. Their mundane routine pulled him into a moment of clarity. The breakfast table had always been a place of laughter, shared stories, and plans for the future. But now, each clink of silverware felt heavy with unspoken tension. He looked at Ella, with her bright eyes, and Ben, who was still wrapped in the innocence of childhood. They deserved the best version of their parents, a version that was healing, engaged, and authentic. With a determined resolve, David decided today wouldn't only be about the letter but about creating an atmosphere that might allow Mary to see what he envisioned. As he gathered the children to share their ideas for the upcoming rehearsal, they became a source of inspiration rather than distraction. He wanted to show them what true expression could look like, believing it echoed the very lessons he wanted to impart to Mary. "Alright, team. What if we add a bit of magic to our play?" he exclaimed, his heart quickening at how their faces lit up with curiosity. Each child contributed their ideas, bursting with creativity and energy that reignited David's determination. As Ella spun a whimsical tale of a brave little star and Ben enacted its adventure with exaggerated gestures, David felt himself transforming from a worried husband to an excited dad. This was the connection he craved not just with his children but with Mary. Later that afternoon, the moment arrived. David found Mary in the living room, her posture still guarded, reminiscent of the prior night's conversation. He handed her the letter, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. "I wrote this for you," he said, his voice steady. "It's my take on what we can become through this. I know it's hard, but I believe it's worth it." With hesitant fingers, Mary unfolded the letter, her silence amplifying his anxiety. As she read, David observed the subtle shifts in her expression, the way her brows furrowed in thought then relaxed ever so slightly as if the ink was mapping a path forward. "I appreciate this, David," she finally spoke, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "But you know my fears aren't just about failure. What if we hurt the kids by trying and it doesn't work?" David felt the ground shift beneath him. He had underestimated the depths of her anxiety, a direct confrontation against his optimism. "Mary, we don't have to be perfect. We just need to be real," he found himself replying, surprising himself with the sincerity that bolstered his response. "Let us take the first step, together. If we fall, we learn. If we learn, we grow. Isn't that what we want for the kids?" Their eyes locked, and in that moment, David realized that this was not only about the upcoming rehearsal or the letter. It was the pivotal choice to open up, to create a safe space for both of them to confront their individual fears, a genuine invitation to a journey of healing. Would she take that step with him? Was their foundation strong enough to withstand the tests of this new venture? As the evening approached, the rehearsals made way for deeper discussions bubbling beneath the surface. David's heart raced, anticipating not just what would unfold in front of the children but within their own relationship. Time slipped away as he meticulously crafted a plan for their next rehearsal, aiming to include not just the children but Mary into this shared creative process. But a familiar voice within him questioned if he was truly ready for such intimacy. The night deepened with unresolved emotions swirling through his mind. David knew he stood on the edge of something profound. What awaited him beyond this confrontation? Would he emerge renewed, or would this path lead them further apart? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, as tomorrow promised another rehearsal, a chance for connection or a test of resilience. Would Mary find the courage to step forward, or would fear tether her to the shadows, leaving David to navigate the uncertainties alone? David awoke the next morning to the quiet whispers of dawn creeping into their bedroom. The anticipation of the day stretched before him like a blank canvas. Rehearsals loomed, but today felt different. It signaled far more than just a playful performance. This was an opportunity to shift dynamics, to explore new depths of connection with Mary, and to present a united front in front of their children. As he brewed coffee, the familiar aroma wafted through the air, mingling with his thoughts of yesterday. Could he coax Mary from behind her walls? What if, beneath her skepticism, there lay a dormant eagerness for change? He realized he needed to approach this with the skill of a negotiator rather than the fervor of an idealist. She had her concerns, and brushing them aside would only deepen the rift. The door creaked open, and in shuffled Ben with his tousled hair and sleepy eyes. "Dad, can we have pancakes for breakfast?" He yawned, rubbing his eyes. A rush of warmth enveloped David. These small moments stirred something deep within, a reminder of why he was pushing against the currents of uncertainty. "Absolutely. How about we add some magic to them?" David responded playfully, as he began to mix the batter, his thoughts still lingering on Mary in the next room. With the children laughing and engaged, he channeled their collective energy. They'd be the spark, a reminder that creativity thrived in the face of doubt. As breakfast rolled into animated chatter, David stole glances toward Mary, who had just appeared in the kitchen, maintaining that protective distance that felt like a physical barrier. He sensed the walls were still there, cloaked in her reluctance. But how could he reach her beyond the apprehensions and convince her to embrace the rehearsal as a transformative step instead of a risk? "Mary," he began, his voice breaking through the lively chatter of kids interjecting about toppings. "After breakfast, I want to try something different today. Let us all contribute to the rehearsal, even you." She furrowed her brow, a gesture that ignited familiar pangs of worry within him. "David, you know I'm not really into this." "I'm not exactly the just give it a chance," he interrupted gently, sensing this was a pivotal moment. "Let us experiment with storytelling together in the play. You can bring your own incredible ideas to the mix. I know you have them, we just have to unlock that door." The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air before a summer storm. He envisioned the storm taking shape inside her, a whirlwind of thoughts spilling over her resolve. David was all too aware of the emotional labyrinth they navigated and how being vulnerable felt like a gamble not to be taken lightly. She sighed, the sound almost a physical weight. "What if I fail at it? What if the kids see me as less than?" This moment awakened something within him, a dormant reflection on his own fears. "You know what we're showing the kids? That it's okay to embrace imperfection. That trying is a victory in itself." He felt his determination tingle at the edges, igniting a fierce conviction. "If you stumble, we'll laugh, and we'll learn. We're in this together." Ella, having overheard the exchange, chimed in, "Mom, please. I want to see you a part of this." Her innocent plea resonated powerfully, as David realized that Mary's participation meant a lot not only to him but to their children who craved a sense of unity. The battle was visible on Mary's face, tension and flickers of something softer. She wrestled with doubt and apprehension, but he saw it, a glimmer of hope. As breakfast wrapped up, he felt the air shift just slightly. Maybe, just maybe, this was her beginning to embrace vulnerability. "Fine," she finally murmured, looking directly into David's eyes. "I'll give it a shot. But don't expect too much." It wasn't a resounding declaration, but it was enough, a step taken toward breaking through the barriers that had hindered them for so long. David's heart raced, coursing with anticipation and dread of what lay ahead. The rehearsal began anew, but this time, it felt charged with potential. As they moved to the backyard, laughter mixed with a thrilling uncertainty about what awaited them. How fragile was this newfound alliance? Would they lean into the joy, or would the shadows of their fears creep back? David silenced his doubts, pushing into the unfolding interactions, ready to seize every moment, celebrating each small victory, ready for the chaotic beauty of vulnerability that lay just ahead. Yet the question lingered as they stepped into the sun, charged with possibilities. How long could this fragile openness last before confronting the silence that had been so deeply rooted? David stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the fresh air that invigorated him. The backyard was alive, bursting with color under the sun, and the laughter of his children was a balm to the raw edges of uncertainty left after their breakfast conversation. Their makeshift stage, a few old crates and a blanket strewn across the grass, felt like a new beginning. As they arranged the props, he caught Mary's unsure expression, a mix of apprehension and tentative excitement. He recognized the duality inside her, the weight of expectations mirrored in the children's eagerness. Beneath her stoic demeanor, did she sense the same fresh promise that filled his chest? "Okay, everyone. Let's begin with a little warm-up," David announced, his voice bright, aiming to shatter any lingering hesitation. "We'll all share something about our characters. It can be funny, serious, anything that helps us connect." He hoped to create a sense of safety. By facilitating dialogue, he envisioned a platform for Mary to express herself, an essential first step in moving beyond her internal barriers. Would she take the bait and collaborate? Ella went first, her animated description of her character's journey peppered with exaggerated hand gestures, prompting Ben to mimic her silliness. The two erupted into giggles, and David saw Mary's lips twitch in amusement. It was subtle but hopeful. "Now, how about you, Mary?" David ventured, inviting her into the fold, feeling the tension shift like a breeze. "What do you think? What's your character like?" She paused, scanning their expectant faces, the weight of her silence echoing in the cheerful chaos around them. Then, finally, she started to speak hesitantly. "Well, I think her voice trailed off, the initial spark extinguished by old fears." "Powerful." David chimed in eagerly. "Fight through that doubt, let us make her someone who surprises others." Mary's eyes met his, a blend of appreciation and irritation dancing between them. Was she relieved or frustrated? The defensiveness reflected in her brow spoke volumes, yet he held on to hope. "Let us try a quick improv," David declared, adrenaline coursing through him. "Just like we practiced. We'll cast ourselves into characters and bring them to life." The kids jumped up, fully in. David could feel the excitement swirling within him too, but he was keenly aware of Mary hesitating, weighing the proposition. "Don't overthink it, Mary. Let go," he encouraged, trying to embody the very message he was preaching. "We'll navigate this together, just like life." With a gradual nod barely perceptible, Mary stood. Though her initial confidence was shaky, a surge of determination bubbled to the surface. She stepped forward, positioning herself next to Ben. "All right, here goes nothing," she said, with an intensity that electrified the moment. David watched with bated breath as she began to portray her character, her voice growing stronger with every line. The kids thrived off her performance, laughing and cheering, the sound both healing and exhilarating, yet just as she started to lose herself in the role, David noticed a familiar shadow flicker across her features. Was it anxiety or regret? The complexity played out on her face reminded him of his own struggles to break free from fear and embrace his vulnerabilities. As the skit unfolded, David seized the moment to convey the concept of being present, unearthing the joy buried beneath uncertainty. He needed to remind her that imperfections were not only welcome but essential in creating unfiltered connection. "Let us reflect," he called out when the scene concluded. "What did we learn about our characters and ourselves?" He held on to that anticipation, hoping she'd recognize her growth amid the laughter. Mary caught his eyes for a moment, the vulnerability more evident than before. She soon turned their discussion inward, recognizing both the weight of performance and the unexpected joy it had brought. As they wrapped up, he realized they'd scratched the surface of something deeply transformative. Within the back and forth of their roles, vulnerability began shedding its intimidating facade. But as the laughter faded and reality settled around them like a thick fog, the tension remained, a reminder that the distance between them still lingered. "Great job, all of you. But let us keep this going," David urged, trying to maintain the momentum. "Tomorrow, we'll explore deeper themes." But as he turned to Mary, he sensed the fear creeping back. Had they truly crossed a threshold, or merely danced around the edges of their deeper issues? The quest for connection was only beginning. The next rehearsal loomed ahead, but would they dive deeper into the uncharted waters of vulnerability, or retreat back to the safety of silence? David jolted awake early the next morning, the sunlight streaming in through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow across the table cluttered with playbooks and scripts. The excitement from the previous day clung to him, yet it was tinged with uncertainty about what lay ahead. Today's rehearsal was meant to plunge deeper into emotional themes, forcing both him and Mary to confront their vulnerabilities head-on. A knot tightened in his stomach as he contemplated how to guide Mary into the uncomfortable but necessary depths. He arrived at the backyard earlier than usual, determined to create a mood of openness and creativity. The air was crisp, each breath sending a charge through him that he hoped would sustain both his own nerves and Mary's, extinguishing any fears lingering in the shadows. He laid out the scripts neatly and arranged the stage area again, the familiar crates standing like guardians of the stories they were about to explore. When Mary arrived, his pulse quickened. She wore a scarf wrapped tightly around her neck, an innocent defense against the chill, but he felt it was something more, a shield, perhaps, that hinted at insecurities he hoped she wouldn't hide behind today. Hey, Mary. He called, trying to exude an energy he didn't fully feel. Ready to delve deeper? She gave an almost imperceptible nod, her eyes focused on the ground. Instinctively, David reached for the conversation starter he had prepared, yet the words faltered on his lips. What do you think about exploring the moments that frighten us, those experiences that shape who we are? He opted for encouragement rather than direction, both tactfully guided yet open. As they gathered, he noticed how the children's laughter created a buoyant atmosphere, lifting them momentarily above the complexities of their situations. Their whimsical stories began as a warm-up, but David wanted more than levity, he longed for authenticity. Today, let us build a scene centered around a moment of fear, something that resonates with each character, something real, he proposed, making it clear he didn't just want theatrics, he wanted truth. Mary's face tightened briefly, revealing the struggle to connect her past to the script. But what if it doesn't work? Her voice was almost a whisper, vulnerable yet hardened by the ghosts of her self-doubt. Let us find out together. What if it leads to a breakthrough? David replied, feeling a rush of empathy. Did she not see how this could be a transformative moment for both of them, an opportunity to claim their narratives and redefine them? The kids bounded back into their roles, shifting and playing with enthusiasm, but their innocent joy highlighted Mary's internal battle. Momentarily stepping back, David admired how their innocence could also serve the poignant narrative of confronting one's fears. Mary finally took a deep breath, her silhouette shifting as she willed herself forward. Okay, she said, her words trembling but firm, let's try to unearth something genuine. David felt his heart race with anticipation. He paired up with her, leading them into a scene built around her character, provoking a theatrical vulnerability that mirrored their reality. As they worked through their lines, Mary's expression morphed from one of reluctance to fierce determination, yet, as they moved deeper, David sensed a pivotal moment approaching. Was she ready to open up? He could feel the tension thrumming beneath the surface, like a coiled spring waiting to release its potential. She was no longer just acting, she was peeling back layers, each revelation rawer than the last, but just then, as David was about to challenge her more directly, he caught a glimmer of resistance in her eyes. The intensity of their work had stirred something fragile, a revelation they both might not be prepared for. Mary, what is holding you back? He asked, the words laced with urgency. This was the crux moment, to seize the opportunity to confront, both personally and collectively, what lay beneath the surface. The air thickened, as did the swirling fear in her expression. David leaned slightly in, trying to bridge the growing chasm between them. Would she choose to embrace this level of authenticity, or revert to the safety of silence? The tension hung there, pregnant with possibility, a daunting threshold neither of them had crossed before. He could feel the stakes rising, a deeply personal journey waiting to unfold. What would happen next would define not only their rehearsal but the very essence of their relationship. As the children buzzed around them, oblivious to the seismic shift simmering beneath, David braced himself for what lay ahead. Could Mary open up? Would she allow her fears to speak for her, crafting a narrative that transcended performance? Only the next moments would tell. As the days rolled on, the children continued to spark bursts of joy and creativity in the backyard. David embraced the spirited energy, each rehearsal unveiling layers of their collective narrative. Yet, every time he turned to Mary, preparing to delve deeper into their emotional exploration, a sense of apprehension clouded her demeanor. Still, David remained resolute, his ambition to create an environment that encouraged mutual vulnerability would not waver. One afternoon, amid the infectious laughter of Ella and Ben rehearsing their comedic antics, David found the courage to initiate the conversation he'd been delaying. Let's address our fears head-on, Mary. We can share genuine experiences that shape us. Let us chart our growth. She hesitated, her brow furrowing as if considering whether to unveil her guarded thoughts. Her response was soft yet sharp. What if uncovering these feelings disrupts everything we've known? Or it may just be the very thing that brings us closer, he countered, feeling an urgency to confront the shield that encased them. Let us begin with the stories we shied away from, the ones that carry weight. Together, we can transform that weight into strength. A flicker of recognition in her eyes hinted that she may have been willing to explore this territory. Breathing deeply, she began recounting the moments that had led to her fears. The narrative flowed, a tapestry woven with threads of regret, worry, and the belief that one misstep could unravel their family's stability. With each shared memory, her voice steadied, each line encouraged her to look deeper at the fears, including the looming fear of failure that had held her back for so long. David seized the moment. "You're not alone in this, Mary. I've wrestled with the same fears, I still do. Facing our vulnerabilities isn't a sign of weakness, it's the very essence of human connection." The dynamic between them shifted palpably. Instead of just two individuals playing roles in a performance, they transformed into collaborators in their life story. Mary's carefully constructed distinctions began to dissolve as she embraced the unity in vulnerability, her narrative resonating with their children's innocent optimism, fueling a forge of resilience. As the rehearsals advanced into deeper discussions over weeks, David recognized something profound in Mary's transformation. She was no longer skirting their reality but confronting it head-on, eager to bridge the gaps that had widened over the years. For the first time, her laughter was spontaneous and unfettered, her willingness to embrace laughter alongside the more poignant memories uncovering a beauty he thought had been lost. The night of the showcase approached, a culmination of their individual growth reflected in what they created as a family. David couldn't deny his nerves, but sharpened under the stress of performance. The weight of uncertainty paled in comparison to the thrill pervading the air. On stage, surrounded by bright lights and a crowd eager to witness the transformation, David inhaled deeply. The collective energy surged. As they took their places before the audience, he could see Mary's look of unwavering determination. Her past fears had ignited into hope, spurring them to step confidently into the light. As the performance unfolded, the family shared songs and skits interlaced with vital messages about vulnerability, ambition, and the celebration of risks. The audience was enraptured, nodding along as the importance of authenticity was etched into every story they told. David caught the sparkle in Mary's eye as they intertwined their narratives, a matching emotion reflecting the growth of their bond. The applause reverberated against the walls as echoes of resonance intermingled with the air, making this experience both monumental and liberating. When they took the final bow, a wave of satisfaction washed over David. A profound connection hung in the balance, a closeness acquired through shared expression. He held Mary's hand, the weight of previous doubts lighter than air as they basked in the moment. Their children erupted into laughter and cheers, but more resonant were the shared glances between him and Mary, a silent acknowledgement of their evolving partnership. "David," she breathed, pulling him aside after the performance, a glimmer of excitement blending with reflection. "I never thought I could stand in front of our friends and family like that. You made me believe it was possible." He smiled, the gravity of every struggle fading into a horizon paved with hope. "Together, we found that belief, Mary. You've accomplished so much more than you realize, and I see it." Each step they'd taken together now solidified their future, something tangible to hold on to. The conflicts concerning ambition and domesticity no longer loomed large, instead, they transformed into milestones on the path to manifesting authenticity. By embracing these truths, both David and Mary achieved a deeper connection with not just each other but themselves. They had conquered the burden of unmet expectations, emerging more profoundly aware of their identities, ready to navigate the complex dance of parenthood, dreams, and shared ambitions. This was the moment of triumph. Together, they proved that harmony between individual aspirations and family responsibilities could coexist, cultivating a life rich in creativity, laughter, and love. As the sunset cast its warm glow over them, David felt a wave of contentment wash over him. He had chased his dreams and rediscovered his voice, all while strengthening the threads that wove their family together. Now, standing beside Mary, he understood that true achievement came not merely from personal victories but from the beautiful complexity of shared journeys. This is your moment too. The promise of growth lies within you. Don't let fear hold you back. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.